大家好，这是 Uhill 新闻社，我是罗俊熙。
我是王冕雄。
如果你还不知道，学校会在9月14日开学，这意味着一切都会恢复正常，对吗？
不太对，事实上，从课外活动到每日的课程表，一切都有变化。在本视频里，我们会先总结一下开学后使用的新系统，我们会概括一些单独的变动，以及与 Timothy McGeer 校长先生和 Bernard Soong 副校长先生关于重新开学的采访。
2020至2021的学年会被分成4个学期，每个长达10周，每天会被分成4个阶段：课时1、Flex Time A、Flex Time B 和课时2。
每个学期内，学生会学习2门课程，并每天都会上课，一个在学校，另一个在网上。至于面对面授课的课程，学生会在早上的课时1或下午的课时2前往学校。每2周后，分别面对面和网上授课的2门课程会互换学习方式。
每天也会有2节 FlexTime 课时，他们是为了一些特殊课程，并且每个学生的时间表的 FlexTime 都会不一样。此外，时间表外的课程会继续在时间表外授课。
除此之外，这些是您也应该知道的变化。储物柜不会被发放，学校会继续使用微软团队远程学习。食堂会被关闭，而且学校不会有午餐时间。
如果你有什么问题或疑惑，可以通过屏幕上的电邮地址联络你的指导员，这些电邮也会在视频下的简介中。
最后，我们会采访 Mr. McGeer 校长和 Mr. Soong 副校长，以消除任何误解或疑惑，并对14日的开学有更深的了解。Many parents are concerned about the school reopening. Can you share some safety precautions that Uhill is taking against COVID-19?
Well, thank you for that excellent question. I want to reassure all of our students and all of our parents that health and safety here at Uhill is our number one priority. And with that in mind, we're taking a number of precautions to make sure that we decrease any chance of transmission of the virus at school. The first set of precautions we're taking is hand sanitizers. So students are expected to sanitize when they come into school, when they come into classes, when they leave classes. We also are emphasizing social distancing. So social distancing throughout the day, social distancing in the hallways, social distancing within classes themselves when kids are in session. Another safety precaution is we have organized the traffic flow in the school directionally so that, again, to help with social distancing, we have up-down staircases and up and down staircases and really clear directional flow of traffic throughout the day. We are emphasizing the importance of self-checks for all people in the learning or in our learning community to understand whether or not there's any symptoms that they may have that could be within the COVID system's descriptors, and to make sure to stay home when if that is the case. So we also are asking parents to play a very important role in this, in doing a self-check at home, and we are sending self-check forms home for parents to use to be able to check symptoms with their own sons and daughters in order to make the decision about whether they can safely send them to school. The main point is we have to work together as a community within the parameters and the guidelines laid out by science and the public health officer in order to keep the virus at bay. We feel confident that we have a good plan, and we're so happy to have students back in the building to be able to learn and grow and develop those relationships with friends and teachers in a safe and socially distanced way. But we know that face-to-face learning is so important, or opportunity is so important for students' growth. So within the health and safety parameters as well, depending on what stage we're at, this schedule can contract and expand accordingly. So if we are given the signal that we can bring more students safely back into school, we'll be easily able to expand that time that students are spending within this quarterly system here at school, or contract it if there is a transmission event and we do need to close a learning cohort as a consequence of that. So cleaning protocols, as well as it relates to health and safety, are thorough. They've been increased, the budget's been increased. I also want to say that teachers have been given PPE, but I want to say a huge thank you to our parent community, to our PAC, for the kind donations that are coming in around support for the health and safety of our learning community. So together we can keep Uhill safe, and we can keep Uhill moving forward. And the message is, as we face this challenge together, is a chance, even though it's difficult and it is challenging, and we understand that people are worried, and understandably so, that we can work together to make our community even stronger as we work through this challenge through collaboration and cooperation, thoroughness and diligence, and clarity.
Why did the school board decide to implement the quarterly schedule?
Well, that's a great question. And there was a lot of thought through the spring and over the summer about what was the best system to implement citywide. So this system is the same in every single school in Vancouver. And many school boards for secondary schools have gone with the quarterly system. Other systems were looked at, semestered systems, the system that was implemented in June, which could expand and contract according to what stage we were in, a very complicated system that there was a chance to pilot that. And through all of that brainstorming and through some of that practical experience, it turned out that the powers that be deemed that the quarterly system was the best. And I have to say that I think it is the best as well, given our circumstances. What it allows us to do, the quarterly system that's hybrid, it allows us to keep the social distancing. It allows us to have classes and numbers of students and adults in the school at any one given time that we feel is safe and controllable. The idea within this quarterly system is, again, to give the kids and the students a chance to take those 2 courses every quarter, and yet do it in that hybrid fashion in 1 to 15 learning cohorts. So that's well below the 120 learning cohort. It allows teachers to connect directly with students, because we know there was lots of challenges with that, with being completely online. But it also allows for the online learning to continue. And it allows for each teacher and all students within the 2 courses they'll take per each quarter to connect directly with their students. So we think that's good. It's the best of both worlds as it relates, as far as dealing with the pandemic goes. The main concern around this was health and safety, small learning cohorts, but giving students the opportunity to connect directly with teachers, so that students weren't left completely online and remote. So that worked for some students, but for many others it didn't. So we think it's a solid plan, it's a safe plan, and we know there's going to be challenges with it, but it's allowed us to get back in school and feel confident about the health and safety measures that are being taken in order to create as safe a learning environment as possible.
Mr. Soong, how would a typical school day look like for students?
A typical school day. Well, one day, very similar to before, we'll have 4 sessions. The first session starting at 8:40 would be 105 minutes to 10:25, and that would be half of a class seeing a teacher face-to-face. If your course code has an A on the end, you would see a teacher at 8:40 to 10:25. After that first session will be session number 2, which is what we call Flex A. Then there's a lunch for our staff, there's a Flex B, and then there will be a last session, or session 4, which would be for the second half of the face-to-face class. So for example, if you have a class code that has a B on the end, then you would come in the afternoon. So one class, split in half, you will either come in the morning or the afternoon, you'll see that teacher once. The other class that you have in quarter 1, that one would be done remotely during those flex blocks between 10:30 and 1:15. That's when the teachers would have time to do those. Again, when we go to the quarter system, usually you have 8 classes throughout the year. You would only have 2 classes in 1 quarter. After 10 weeks of that model, then you'll switch to the next quarter and the next quarter and the next quarter. So, back to the daily, if you have one teacher you see face-to-face, you're going to see that teacher for anywhere from 1 to 2 weeks in a row. Then that's going to switch. So the class you were doing remotely, you'll see that teacher face-to-face. In the class you were doing face-to-face, you'll now do that remotely. There's a grid that's going to come out to all the parents. Some students have seen it in orientation. It's going to have these yellow and green zones. Whenever you go from a yellow zone to a green zone, that's when you switch from face-to-face to remote. I will just say one thing about flex. Flex is when you can get extra help from your teachers, but we've also decided that some classes would be better suited in a year-long schedule so that students can get help for much longer than 10 weeks. There are some classes that really fit that. So if you are in a flex class, your teacher will get in touch with you and they will give you a concrete schedule which will then communicate to parents. So hopefully that helps, and it's very different, but again, trying to keep things separate, keep the cohort small to keep all of our students and staff safe.
今天的视频到此结束，我们希望这个视频消除了您的一些疑惑，并帮助您更深入地了解了14日开学的情况。感谢您的观看，注意安全并保持社交距离。